Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. Okay, let's look at an aspect of health. About 3 months ago, you recall that the coordinating minister for health and social welfare, Professor Mohammed Pate, he had announced on his X handle that President Tinubu had signed an executive order that would now institute a regime of zero VAT on all pharmaceuticals and medical implements. It was cheering news because, as most people will know, the price of medicines at the pharmacies had just gone through the roof. In many cases had doubled, in some cases had quadrupled, and it was beginning to be quite worrying. So that was a timely intervention by the president. Now, Professor Mohammed Pate had said at the time that all of this was the realization by the president that things were very, very tight. Yet, people in the business, the pharmaceutical business, have said that in spite of that, the conditions just have not been so as favorable as people would have liked. No access or very little access to the right kind of loans and, such things. Well, we have an expert in the studio who is also definitely a stakeholder in the person of Dr. Tuyi Mebawondu, who is a public health physician. And this is an area of interest. In fact, all physicians will be interested in this, but I imagine that Dr. Tuyi Mebawondu is dealing with the rest of us who can, we need to save everything that we can save, and we can't afford medicines anymore. So good morning to you, Dr. Tuyi Mebawondu.
Uncle Yori, good morning. Such a wonderful day. It's been some time. Nice to hear your voice. Nice to see your face.
Same here. Same here, Dr. Mebawondu.
Interesting times.
Same here, Dr. Mebawondu. Now, I'm sure I am within safe bounds when I say that you must have been excited when you heard that President Tinubu had initiated this executive order. The effects of it. Maybe you can tell us, because you're out there, what has been the effect of it so far, even though we are hearing that, well, we're just about to begin to sort of reap the benefits of it.
Thank you so much. For every little good things or every little sharing news we get, especially from health, as far as I'm concerned, I want to celebrate. I can tell you the harrowing experiences individuals have been going through in the recent time in terms of having quality access to healthcare and even health products. We saw that common antibiotics costs have gone up astronomically. We saw that even simple inhaler became unaffordable because of the cost, and all these things now will have to be borne by the patient, who then find a way not to come to the hospital or just stay at home and die silently. I've seen situations whereby procedures are to be carried out because of the sheer cost. The patient would rather stay away and resort to prayer and miracle handkerchief and super
and miracle water.
So it's miracle water, miracle water. It's so heartwarming. For me, I am excited. I know that there are a lot of costs to production of medicine or even Medicare. There are a lot of costs. It's not just about excise or tariff or or VAT as it is. Yes, again, for whatever it is, I never thought that health products will be VATable. I mean, from day zero, I was not expecting any VAT on health products. So good enough. Let's us make this a permanent executive order in such a way that anything called health must not be VATable. Now, the other input into the production of medication, okay, apart from importation, the major challenge about importation is the cost of dollars.
Yes.
Because you are importing based on dollars.
Very
now, if the VAT is off it, if the VAT is off it, then I mean maybe and the custom duty and excess are off it, then we are having some reasonable consideration that you just have to search for your dollar, bring your drug in and sell based on prevailing dollar rates. And we see that happening to fuel importation or fuel sales as it is now. So still, yes, we are glad that the VAT is off, the excise duty is off, and then there's harmonization going on at the level of the custom and NAFDAC and everybody to say, okay, look away from this and ensure that the drugs come in. But the key things for me would have been the importation of active pharmaceutical ingredients, which are very essential in producing those drugs locally. Because the thing that will change the narration as far as drugs is concerned is local production, quality local production. Of course, I commend NAFDAC, who is able to do a lot of supervisory role and try to look around drug production in Nigeria. But again, the greater input to the drug production in Nigeria has to do with the energy, has to do with the cost of even land and other inputs into the production. So we're happy that this is happening. We hope that it will further go on to affect production of drugs. But what we need to do is this. For me, I wouldn't support a whole-scale removal of those VATs and everything on emphasis on every pharmaceutical product. But what we should do is lay much emphasis on those drugs that are that fall into the essential drug list. Because as it is, the essential drug list becomes key. Apart from essential drug list, there are some drugs that actually were used in treatment of cancers and all those things, which of course is becoming a huge problem to the nation now. So essential drug list, we have to look at it. Anti-malaria is getting too expensive. You cannot buy any serious anti-malaria less than 3,000 naira as it is now. That is way off the roof. This used to cost about 500, 600 before last year. It's now 3,000 and it's still going up. And then you cannot even be too sure of the quality of what you are getting. So we want the pharmaceutical importers, the pharmaceutical manufacturer to also assist in this regard by ensuring that we have the quality products we're looking for, by ensuring that they lower the cost. Since the government is also lowering the cost for them, we want the pharmacovigilance at the level of the NAFDAC to be raised up in such a way that the NAFDAC, we ensure the prices are not shot to the roof. Because now you get to some places and you are finding out that the drug that should normally, if all these inputs cost about 2,000, some people are just putting 10,000. Unnecessary profiteering, that is going on. We have to actually, look at that. The consumer people, the consumer protection people must also come in and look at how to ensure that we benefit maximally from this government initiative. It's now on our hands to ensure that this initiative gets the kind of right bang for the bucks and for the attention they're putting into it.
Now, of course, as you've indicated, every little bit that the ultimate consumer, the patient, can get is going to be highly appreciated. But I was noting in just looking over stories before coming on this particular broadcast that a former chairman of the Lagos State branch of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Bolagade Iyola, he had emphasized that the exchange rate would still appear, as you have indicated, to be a major stumbling block. He says the EO, the executive order, is about custom duty on raw materials, not on finished pharmaceutical products. How significant is that as he made that difference?
Let us be clear. We cannot manufacture all the major drugs we need in Nigeria. Because you tell me, which company is manufacturing anti-cancer drugs, for instance? There are still some reagents you need for processes for diagnosis. Which company in Nigeria is manufacturing it? We can't run away from bringing in those materials, even finished products. So what we want the government to do is to look at those essential lists and extend the coverage of that exemption to those essential lists.
Okay.
That's when it can then make sense. So it's not just, I know active pharmaceutical ingredients is needed, they are needed for local manufacturing. Apart from that, machinery are needed for local manufacturing. I can tell you from experience, trying to put together a syringe manufacturing concerns.
Yes.
The equipment is heinous. I mean, the cost of those machineries is a lot, and they are in dollars. The cost of raw materials you are going to need Of course, polypropylene, if you have to go to a refinery in Nigeria to buy it, it's a lot of money. They will sell to you based on the dollar rate. So in reality, we have not sat down to look at this critical input into healthcare. Now, the drug input into healthcare is a significant input because if you make all the if you have the best of doctors that can even diagnose without touching anybody, okay, and you still need medications, you still need drugs, you still need procedure, you still need equipment to make this diagnosis, and then people still try to be, cavalier, in terms of profit.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, so this is the real worry. The consumers are being shortchanged at every corner in the nation. Even when you reduce, okay, you can even see what happened to the rice that was being distributed at a certain price. The price went up to what it was pre-that distribution. So you ask yourself the question, I mean, at what point do we start loving ourselves?
Exactly, because we're in a situation here where, unfortunately, and this is not just about the pharmaceutical sector alone, sellers are able to ask whatever they want. I mean, there's no compulsion. They just ask it. If you don't like it, go away. And they seem to pass the word around. And before you know where you are, just about everybody in that sector is asking for also import duty on it. Yeah, that sounds very, exciting. But there are realities to be involved, and perhaps people need to be cautiously, but only cautiously optimistic. But this isn't likely to affect anything significantly very, very soon. Is that too pessimistic a view?
It's realistic view. I mean, it's not about pessimism, it's realistic view. Because in the whole value chain, in the whole supply chain structures and stakeholder involvement, there are a lot of steps down the line. Of course, you bring drugs, you source dollars,
yes,
you send it abroad. You source dollars, you send it abroad. That's one limitation, one obstacle. It goes abroad, then it comes to that you have to ship, even if you are not going to pay duty or VAT on it. You get to the wharf, okay, you have to go through all the processes. Yes, that is that. You have to actually transport those things to your warehouse or whatever it is. That is a cost that will depend on the cost of fuel, the contract transportation cost. Then there are distribution costs, okay, warehousing costs, distribution costs, and of course, before it gets to the final consumer. Now, you can look at those stakeholders in this regard, and then people will now want to maximally, because what people do in Nigeria, as I've seen, is that every little thing you are doing, you want to raise up the costs, okay, to be able to cater for your personal need, so that this is the drug I'm selling. It is from it I'll send my children to school.
Yes.
From this I'll pay for my NEPA. It is from this. So all these added costs then come into the force. And then when it's enforced, you will just see a tiny move in the hand of the needle. If the supervising agencies and regulatory agencies will do their work, consumer protectors, the NAFDAC people, and even the pharmaceutical associations, if they would rather stand up and do their work. But what we're seeing is that, the commercialization of the pharmaceutical, there's no big deal about commercialization, but with commercialization with loss of professionalism, that's what we're seeing in the pharmaceutical industry. What you see is that you see people who are not supposed to be in the pharmaceutical industry, and there's no supervisory room for them. Nobody is supervising them. So to them, everything is profit. To them, everything is how you can maximize, how you can hoard and maximize your profit, as in the case of this pharmaceutical product. To them, it's how to create oligopoly or monopoly in the distribution of those drugs. So in reality, it will come down to the fact that can you manufacture in Nigeria? Can you escape the challenge of having to look for dollar and send abroad? Can you escape the cost of shipping? Can you then manufacture, create jobs, distribute locally to significantly reduce your cost? Do you have a special process of getting energy? And of course, even the greatest obstacle to industry now is how do you get, what's the cost of power? The cost of power is one of the greatest disincentive to manufacturing as in the pharmaceutical industry. This I know. And of course, that your equipment are very sensitive. you have to go through a thorough, maintenance of those things. Sometimes some does not require light. You do not require light to go. So these are big issues. So we have to look at all these things holistically. Yes, VAT off. Yes, custom duty off. But those are just the initial step. But let's be happy about even the little one.
Dr. Mebawondu, as a Yoruba person, you're familiar with the expression "elewe omo" in all Nigerian, Yoruba markets throughout the Southwest. These are the traditional medicine, component vendors. I know doctors are not too, enthusiastic commenting on that side of town, but they are a reality. And the point I wanted to make is that even their prices have gone up. What you do, anybody in the Southwest, and I'm sure in other areas of the country too, would just present himself before an elewe omo. I was just trying to see if there was a quick, translation of elewe omo. But you just tell very much what we do with you doctors. We tell you what our symptoms are, what our complaints are. You tell the woman the same thing. She's an experienced person. She brings some herbs from here. It is in South Africa that thing is the most developed. But unfortunately, prices are going up there too. Prices are going up all over the place. How concerning is this? Medicine, allopathic medicine, your branch of the science, of the craft, it can't take care of everything. It can't take care of everything. So whether we like it or not, it's going to spill over to that side of town. Just since we're on this whole subject of pharmaceuticals, that is also pharmaceuticals in its own sort of way. How concerned are you for that side of town too? Because not everybody can afford the kind of prices that we're talking about now.
Again, I saw the attempt of, let me tell you the one I know, of Lagos State.
Yes.
Trying to regulate.
Yes.
Trying to
they have a traditional medicine council.
The traditional medicine council, by creating a board to look at it. And at a point in time, my very good brother, he's a medical doctor, was the head of that board. And I'm sure he was actually trying to do a lot, but I don't know. We're not having communication in terms of exposure of what he's doing. You are right. For whatever it is, some people will not use allopathic medicine. They're just allergic to your drug, and you cannot. It's their choice. It's a choice. But what would be meaningful is to see that even at that level of allopathic medicine, there are some for traditional medicine and elewe omo, there's some standardization, there's some rules that guide those things. Because if there are no rules, charlatans will enter, and then they will cause more harm to the seeker of that sort of care. We are having a lot of problems in trying to standardize, trying to regulate, in trying to see for them to know their limits and not go further down. Well, as it is, we leave that to the traditional board, traditional medicine board, to figure out how to regulate, how to monitor,
Indeed.
How to ensure compliance to some regulations. So I think, as it is, we still have that sort of structure to deal with excesses in that area. And of course, normally when people are seeking for health, if you have really fallen sick before, you understand the fact that when you are seeking for health, you want health at all costs. And that is why the people that are most prone to manipulations are people that are sick. The family that are most prone to manipulation are the family of sick people.
Yes.
So, and we must be able to have that kind of protection for them.
Okay.
Whatever it is, the health system, the co-health, for instance, as an instance, there are state health insurance schemes like co-health that you can key into and start your health care from that. And of course, the future of health now is for us to look at that preventive and screening system I mean, that is the future of health. We must be able to look at the life cycle of somebody and say that these are the likely sickness that the person may experience. Now, if we can raise our traditional board or traditional medicine to the level of, say, Ayurvedic medicine in India,
Yes.
then we can compete.
Okay.
We can compete essentially.
Okay.
You look at India, look at China, they have their own traditional medicine running with the allopathic medicine.
Indeed.
So for us, what then should we do to raise our own traditional medicine to that standard?
Exactly.
If we have not raised it to that standard, it becomes a problem. It becomes a subject of criticism.
I fully understand
I am throwing it, at the feet of the traditional medicine board in Lagos, for instance, to run around and make sure this thing happens.
Okay.
Then one of the most curious parts of the medical care that I'm looking at, non-allopathic medical care that I'm looking at, that is concerning, is the so-called spiritual healing. Okay, when somebody now
that's an entirely different,
surprising water, and and then because at the end of the day, they do this prayer to somebody with a lump in the breast, and the person who has stage 1 now ended up with stage 4 B cancer.
One moment, Dr. Mebawondu. One moment, please. I've been holding on to Kesandu's call. So sorry about that. Good morning, Kesandu in Owerri. Kesandu in Owerri. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for holding on. Are you still there? Kesandu in Owerri.
Yes, Uncle Yori, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Yes. Uncle Yori, this is a laudable one. It's a step in the right direction what the federal government is doing or has done. But as Nigerians, we have just one problem. Full feasible implementation of this thing. You see, the reason some of us Nigerians were going to be sure that Mr. President or the federal government has actually done the needful, if we see this thing, that will be clearly reflected in the prices of our pharmaceutical products. So we are encouraging the government. It is one step to make this proclamation. This implementation should be done to the last. So we are hopeful, we are willing, and we are calling the appropriate authorities to ensure that this implementation is done. It is not enough saying it that it will be implemented. We want to see it and we want to reflect when we go to the market. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much. But the point has been made that often we have to bring in the raw materials, and that is what the VAT will affect. Okay, so we're happy there. But it has been observed by those who know about these things that the process, the finished, I think they have complained that the matter no reach there. So we'll see how all of that goes. Dr. Mebawondu was sort of discussing, on efforts and perhaps challenges in other forms of medicine, as other places, and he was alluding to, the Chinese medicine who have managed to integrate and become partners with allopathic medicine. Even South Africa has gone quite far. They have a different approach. They and their muti, they have a totally different aspect to it. But we're talking here about pharmaceuticals, which is by far the widest. There's the demand for pharmaceuticals. Western big pharma has often been a main culprit. There are those who are charging that it is not in the interest of big pharma to see the price of drugs come down, and so it is made artificially high. Even doctors themselves, your very good self, you're as an allopathic doctor, you Western trained, for people who are wondering about the term allopathic. They're wondering that doctors are hand in glove with big pharma by going around and using the influence that is undeniable, recommending certain kind of drugs because they are hand in glove with big pharma. Again, this is not. It won't be. I won't be the person that would have brought this to your notice for the first time. What will you be saying about that alleged practice of medical doctors?
Yeah, okay, let's tell you what. We cannot pretend that people don't influence, people don't lobby. As there are lobbies in political space, as there are lobbies in legal issues, there are also, in quotes, lobbies in use of medication. The first thing you need to do is to assure that through your study, through your clinical trials, your drug actually does what you say it does. So that's the first thing. Is it effective? Is it efficient? Is the drug working? That's the first question. If the drug is working, the human behavior is such that it takes time for me to change my ingrained prescription culture. It takes time. Okay? If I'm used to saying that, okay, for instance, chloroquine is a treatment for malaria, it takes time. We don't just shift from chloroquine to ACT. It takes time. And then this transition time means that the pharmaceutical company has to do a lot of interaction with the doctors. And this interaction comes in the form of clinical presentations, offering of free samples, looking at symposia, different symposia,
yes, to
educate the doctors, to tell them what and what is happening. Yes. And then doing more research to validate the medication. Mm-hmm. So now, if you ascribe this to lobby, if you ascribe this to being hand in glove, of course, can doctors run away from pharmaceutical industries if they want to have results? They cannot. So now if you have a new product and they push the product and you see this works, because at the end of the day, you are looking for the health of your patient. Indeed. You want your patient to get well. Indeed. So you cannot, there's nothing wrong in doctors relating to them and trying to see that this is your new product, is it working? And we have also seen many cases when doctors relate with them and find that the products are not working, and the product has to be pulled down or even taken away.
No doctor is going to be recommending products that don't work.
Exactly.
Let me bring in Elder David. Elder David has been holding on for a while. Good morning, Elder.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Okay. Go ahead now, please.
Good morning, sir, Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling and for holding on. Go ahead now.
Thank you very much. What is happening? What is the problem? There's confusion everywhere. When the president makes a law, people are there to implement it. They are not doing that. No petrol issue. Look at the drug issue.
Well, there are processes.
When a tablet that was bought for 10 naira about some months ago, somebody is increasing to 500. Is it the president that is doing that? What of those supposed to implement what the president have done? President have already removed tax and every other thing. It's supposed to go down. Well, it's not the issue of the president. President have done his best.
Elder, if you've been with us for a while,
in other places,
Elder,
like what is happening in Borno State and others.
There is a foreign
Elder. What of the ministers?
Elder,
there's a foreign exchange
component to this equation.
Those who are increasing petrol, they are doing that in order to undermine this government.
Okay.
But the issue is this: by the grace of God, God will intervene, and those who are doing it, they themselves, they will equally face the straight. They cannot undermine this government. The president is doing his best.
All right, Elder.
And by grace of God, is going
Elder, thank you very much. Elder, I hear you, Elder. But I just wanted to add that we've been talking about there's also a foreign exchange component to this equation. Even if the president has done what makes a lot of people happy, number one, the percentage that it affects out of the cost of the drug is one thing. And then there's no controlling the exchange rate immediately. So it's possible for this to be applied and for it to stay the same simply because of movements of foreign exchange. There's also that part of the equation that has to be fitted in. And that's what we're discussing now, Elder. But I take what you are saying, and Dr. Mebawondu has also spoken to, if he wants small, sharp practices and some of these reluctance of our people to do the right thing in terms of pricing ethically. Yeah, all of that, you're very right, Elder. But there are other parts to this equation, and as you know, scientists especially, and even government, they want equations to balance. And if we're not careful, these equations won't be balancing. I don't know if we should just, Dr. Mebawondu, let's take a quick break, and I'll be right back. There are some questions that, now that we have you, I'll also like to be asking you. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw ether material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move weigh in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Okay, welcome back, and we're looking at, effectively, we're looking at the price of medications in Nigeria. It has never been, well, there was a time when it was affordable. I said that with trepidation because a lot depends on what you need your medication for. People will tell you, if you ask, that there are certain categories where traditionally the price of medication is very, very high. I imagine hypertension, for example, my not being a doctor myself, I just stopped there. That seems to be the most popular one, maybe diabetes and all these kind of medications, very, very high. And in recent times, because of the exchange rate, we've seen the price of medications double and even quadruple in some cases. Even the supplements that people are asked to see what they can do for themselves and take, well, people are just saying, whatever the food can give me, let it give me. I don't have any money to be buying on supplements, simply because these things are not affordable anymore. Okay, Dr. Mebawondu has been sort of explaining the situation to us. There are components to this whole thing. There's the importation part of it, the raw materials. As he said, we simply can't manufacture all the medicines that we need. I don't think any country can, because even in America, you hear of people crossing over to Mexico to go and buy drugs because of this same situation that we're talking about here. But there's no denying the fact that the federal government is looking in the right direction. The next step now, which will go back to the general conversation we do have often about the cost of, about the inflation in our society. Yes, the president has taken out VAT, taking out our import duty. But the next level is that the economy, all of this is still operating within the economy. And if there is food inflation, unfortunately, there's also pharmaceutical, drugs, prescription inflation as well. So that is the dilemma, is it not, Dr. Mebawondu? We can't escape the economy generally.
Obviously, everything rises and falls with the economy. So there's no way, even if we have free importations of pharmaceutical products and active pharmaceutical ingredients, and we have free importation of medical textiles, of pharmaceutical textiles and equipment, we still have to contend with the inflation running the country. Because you have to do transportation, you have to do storage, you have to do distribution costs. You have to pay people that are actually working with you. You have to maintain your factory. These are inputs into any of those products. Of course, when you have companies like Sanofi and you have companies like GSK existing Nigeria markets, those big pharmaceutical companies that have the capacity to bring in large bulk and raise dollars from their own country, when they are exiting, then that's not a good signal, unless you can have a way to manufacture and then replace the products and replace the cheaper version, which we call generics of those products they're making. We should find a way to be pushing for generic manufacturing as a way of lowering costs. We should be able to see, how to deploy payers, health, insurance, projects or health insurance to affect the cost of drugs. Yeah, most of the HMOs you're seeing nowadays, they will tell you the drugs they are going to exclude from your contract. So they still run to the basic drugs And the key drugs that some antibiotics are excluded, you have to go and buy by yourself. There are a lot of opaqueness in terms of running health system, from not just about pharmaceutical manufacturing, even at the level of health financing, from the national insurance schemes or HMOs, as
Yes.
the case may be.
Yes.
So we have to look at this thing and figure out, if federal government can remove this, remove duty, remove some costs from them, we should be able to see the reflection, even at the level, this level of national insurance schemes or state insurance schemes or HMOs are actually adding some of those medications. The medication they have either banned, adding them to the list that the patient can benefit from. So, but in reality, that a businessman wants to maximize profit at all costs, and pharmaceutical industries are not exception. You saw what the war on the price of fuel is doing to us generally, because it's about profit. So then, the government was able to stand up and go in and say, listen, as a matter of critical national survival, you cannot then, raise more than this percentage in terms of drug cost. And you see that in countries like even India, that we started around the same time, that the MRP, maximum retail price, is actually printed on the packets of some of those drugs. So you have an MRP on those things. We have not seen such intervention either from the level of consumer protection people, okay? You see that pharmaceutical industry, these are essential drugs that you carry an MRP on the package. But of course, when an MRP says that you cannot sell more than 3,000, if you sell more than 3,000, we should be able to provide means of informing the regulatory agencies that these companies are going, or this shop is going beyond the MRP, okay? So we have to be more innovative. We have to be more assertive in defining how people can get benefit from such initiative. If you just do initiative and leave it free like that, you will take advantage.
Okay.
You maximize profit. You run roughshod. So that's where we are.
Indeed. And, I think we've commented on the fact that chemists, I want us to be careful about chemists, because anybody can set up as a chemist, unfortunately, in Nigeria. I think there are societies where you can't set up shop as a chemist unless you are qualified to do so. But everybody knows the corner chemist, so-called. We have to put the word chemist in inverted commas. And they can actually, they've learned how to read prescriptions, and so we'll actually be able to attend to you. But that's one aspect to it. I was going to ask you, Doctor, what we're hearing about drug categories such as artesunate and chloroquine, because arguably malaria is the biggest single problem. Just every Nigerian knows about malaria. And these are traditional drug classes that have been used to that have been brought to, confront these situations. Now, recently, we begin to hear that are the medical people striking out artesunate and striking out chloroquine? What exactly is the proper understanding that one should have of this?
Yori, we stopped using chloroquine more than 20 years ago for malaria. So if you see people going back to use those chloroquine, they are part of the who contributed to the extreme malaria we are seeing in the country. We stopped that long time ago. Secondly, there are classical dosing for the combination therapy, what we call ACT combination therapy that we use to treat malaria. What we are seeing is that there are what we call people are making fakes, okay, adulteration of those compounds, limiting the content, and then apart from that, because even if you make the best content, people must use the drug appropriately, and that is why education, when you are giving somebody any medication, you have to sit down and explain properly the reason the person must take the drug as prescribed, so that you can protect the general population. Because if you don't use as prescribed, and you get resistant to do some of those malaria, for instance, you are further endangering the general population. Because resistant malaria hits the population, and we may not have a molecule to deal with it. As it is now, ACT, what we call artesunate combination therapy, is the appropriate medication to treat, non-complicated malaria. So, if we don't use it properly, we don't have another molecule to use, except you want to go. The malaria will not become complicated, and you have to use a more challenging medication. So it is up to us to use the drug, to have a diagnosis, use the drug properly as prescribed, so that you can save ourselves and save the general population about medication. So drug education becomes important. In fact, it's not just, even sometimes when we're doing our commercials for some of those drugs, when we're trying to push a brand beyond all of that, we should add drug education to it. The importance of using the drug appropriately, the meaning of the proper dosing of that medication becomes important. So for all of us, recently, just 2 days ago, I lost a very wonderful friend, a good friend. At the age of 47, he just collapsed and died because, his antihypertensive was not properly used. And he just suffered stroke and died. So when we say all these things, it's not just that we want the pharmaceutical company to sell. It's just because we want you to stay alive sufficiently to an age where you may die, not, dying at 47.
Okay.
So our education in this regard becomes very important. And that's why you now see that people use some anti-malaria, they're not getting well. Because resistance has developed, because wrong dosing, even by the people, is happening on a large scale.
All right, one moment, doctor. Olaoye has called in from Ojodu. Good morning, Mr. Olaoye. Okay, I just lost Olaoye there. But the point taken, doctor, that you were making about those categories of drugs and how, because you see, this because everything is expensive, everything, even medical care, people often adopt shortcuts. People that should go see doctors and get prescriptions take the shortcut of going to the chemist straight. And I use the word chemist, I'm not sure, you know what I mean. People just know a corner medicine store, a.k.a. chemist. There are professional, pharmacies. Yes, they are. But people take the shortcut, go there, and that can be very, very dangerous. And people sort of just memorize what's happened, what the doctor said in relation to my friend who had similar conditions to what I'm now having, or what happened, what the doctor said the last time I had this situation. So I don't think I'll bother going to the doctor again this time. I'll just cross over straight. So this is what you were talking about, generally drug education. It's a separate problem, shall we say, or challenge from what we're talking about, which is bring down the cost of drugs, which was the idea the federal government had when President Tinubu actually signed this initiative on, a zero, there's going to be zero value-added tax on pharmaceutical products. So we're talking about drugs now, but it's not just about drugs. Also implements in President Tinubu's ideas, and the coordinating Minister of Health has said that all processes have now been completed, and very soon we should be, very, very shortly, the implementation will be out there. But then we're also learning that we have to be quite careful. Don't think that because of all of this, a drug that you used to buy at maybe 3,000, just for example, took that figure off the top of my head, will suddenly now be about 1,200. There are factors that Dr. Mebawondu and I have been discussing, and not least of which of all is the economy itself. Since all the components, the raw materials for all of these drugs are brought in from abroad, we don't have all of these things here. So it is a challenge. But at least the government is looking in the right direction. Elder David had called in and said that, yeah, in fact, other people, this is what they are saying, that, good one. That's the right thing. But let me hear it from Mr. Abayomi in Kaduna. Good morning, Abayomi. I think we lost that call. It might have helped if Abayomi had muted the volume on his television set. It might have helped. But thank you very much for trying to get in, even though just Kaduna here. Technically, that's not a problem, but it did happen. I guess Dr. Mebawondu has been telling us of the various aspects to all of this. I even added some questions beyond the scope of our caption that he has also addressed. By and large, Dr. Mebawondu, good one by the president, by the authorities, but we have to be cautiously optimistic about the effect that all of this will have, because it's like an equation, and all parts of it have to balance. Even the business side of it, outside there, which you have really spoken at length on. There are so many aspects to it. So, well, Dr. Mebawondu, hopefully you're still with us.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. So,
I can hear you.
Is there anything else that we should be noting in relation to this? Professor Mohammed Pate, the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, has said that, yeah, all the T's have been crossed and the I's have been dotted. I don't know how soon we should now begin to see the effect of this.
Yeah, we said thank you, Professor Mohammed Pate, the Coordinating Minister, Minister of Health and Coordinating Minister of Social Welfare. We say thank you, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for sending your signature to that. We still have to move forward to the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. We have to move downward to the Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Association of Nigeria. We have to move down to the Community Pharmacy Society of Nigeria. We have to go down to those people prescribing those drugs and utilizing the drugs, that at the end of the day, let us see this effect, no matter how tiny it is. If it means stabilization of the price in a way of some of those very basic essential products, let it just be. We have to talk to the HMOs and the National Health Insurance people of the drug categorization and listing that the patient can have access to. Because some, they have to buy it by themselves. We have to actually let the government know that beyond that, we need to do the big, hairy, audacious goal in this health, when we can manufacture sufficient generics, and then we can see incentives to manufacture those things in the country. Truly then is when we will see the cost of medication going up. When we can actually manufacture our own active pharmaceutical ingredients, which import essentially. We have all the raw materials to create active pharmaceutical ingredients. We send our cassava abroad for them to make starch, medical starch, which we use to mix drugs. But here we cannot do those things. So there are lots of gaps. We hope this will be the beginning of the story.
All right then. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Tuyi Mebawondu. I hope I will see you again, not as long an interregnum as the one that we had before seeing you again this morning. It's always good to see you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mebawondu.
Always my pleasure, sir.
All right then. So that's our program today then. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye for now.